Peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Hope all is well. This is the so-called Black audio show. And on this show, we talk any and everything so-called black. So-called black history, so-called black news, so-called black entertainment, so-called. And I say so-called black because black is just a color. It's not a race. It's not a nation of people. It is just a color. And in this video, I want to talk about a case that is going on in Dallas right now. Dallas, Texas, where a teen was fatally stabbed. A white teen was fatally stabbed by a so-called black male who states he was defending himself. I'm going to play this video here.
The killing of Austin Metcalf, the student stabbed at a high school track meet near Dallas. According to the arrest affidavit, 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony has confessed to the killing, saying he was trying to protect himself. He was trying to protect himself. District championship meet in Frisco. Hunter says his brother had asked Karmelo to move his seat because he was sitting under the wrong tent. A witness says Karmelo replied, "Touch me and see what happens." And when Austin grabbed him, Karmelo allegedly pulled a knife. They asked Karmelo to move his seat because he was sitting under.
Okay, so there you have it. All right, so-called black male Karmelo Anthony was sitting under a tent because it was raining outside. It was raining outside, so he was sitting under this tent to stay dry, right? To dry off. That's when he was approached by two white males, twin brothers, twin white males, right? This gentleman here, Austin Metcalf, and his twin brother approach, and they tell him to leave, to move, to get to get out of the tent. And he's probably sitting there thinking, okay, I'm here to stay dry. It's raining outside, but they're telling him to leave. And that's when Karmelo is like, okay, listen, guys, I'm here. I'm trying to dry off. Chill out.
The wrong tent. A witness says Karmelo replied,
stating that he's in the wrong tent. I guess it was a track meet, so the tent must have belonged to the other team. Either way, you go get a teacher or you go get security. You don't take it into your own hands. You're the kids. You're the children. You do not go and grab. You do not approach. You do not grab. You do not try to apprehend another person. That is not up to you. You go get a teacher at this point. That's what I'm thinking at this point.
"Touch me and see what happens." And when Austin grabbed him, Karmelo allegedly pulled a knife. And when Austin grabbed him, 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony has confessed to the killing, saying he was trying to protect himself.
Arrest documents state 17-year-old Karmelo Anthony was sitting under Frisco Memorial's pop-up tent at a track meet Wednesday morning. Metcalf told Anthony he needed to move. Then Anthony grabbed his bag, reached inside, and said, quote, "Touch me and see what happens." The documents say a short time later, Metcalf grabbed Anthony to tell him to move. And Anthony stabbed Austin once. Metcalf grabbed Anthony to tell him to move. And Anthony grabbed Anthony to tell him to move.
Grabbed Anthony. Anthony, the so-called black male, was grabbed by Metcalf. He was approached by two people, grabbed by one of them. Now, how is it that this so-called white male can grab another person and they're not able to defend themselves? They're not able to defend themselves about somebody grabbing them who they do not know. They did not consent to being grabbed. They then are grabbed. At that point, they have a right to defend themselves from being grabbed. Real quick, before we even get into laws and all that, let's go into self-defense. Let's just go there. Self-defense is the use of force to protect oneself from an attempted injury by another, right? The use of force. Self-defense is the use of force to protect oneself from an attempted injury by another. If justified, self-defense is a defense in criminal and tort law. It is used in unlawful acts involving force. Okay. So we know what self-defense is. Another definition for self-defense: deadly force is permissible only when faced with the imminent threat of serious bodily injury or death. A person may act in self-defense to defend themselves or others if they believe that force is immediately necessary to protect against the threat, right? To protect against the threat. Is grabbing you a threat? It should be considered a threat. If you did that to a police officer, they would have grounds to kill you, right? Being grabbed by somebody. So for me, it's not about if this is self-defense. To me, this is clearly self-defense. And if you say otherwise, then there's something wrong with you. Because the only thing you should be arguing maybe is proportional response. Self-defense law requires the response to match the threat level in question. In other words, a person can only use as much force as required to remove the threat. So, to use as much force as required to remove the threat. If the threat involves deadly force, the person defending themselves can use deadly force to counteract the threat. If the threat involves only minor force and the person claiming self-defense uses force that could cause grievous bodily harm or death, their claim of self-defense will fail. So, oh man, but that should not make the whole claim of self-defense fail. That's the only issue here. That is the only issue here, because one can argue if being touched requires you to then stab them in the chest, right? Again, if you're a cop, probably they would justify that. But in this case, being touched and being approached and grabbed, should you fight back using your hands, or is stabbing him a proportional response? Now I'm talking legal terms. The only issue I have is the end of this. If the threat involves only minor force and the person claiming self-defense uses force that could cause grievous bodily harm or death, their claim of self-defense will fail. Their whole claim should not fail anyway. It could still be self-defense. It was just unproportional, right? Then they have duty to retreat. But he was grabbed. I mean, he couldn't retreat. He was grabbed. He stabbed him and ran, right?
And Anthony stabbed Austin once in the chest and then ran away. Later telling an officer at the scene, "I'm not alleged, I did it. He put his hands on me, I told him not to." Anthony's bond was set at $1 million. Legal experts.
Dude, what was up? McKellen, bro, he wasn't even under the tent.
All right, so you have a witness that was there.
And they tried to punch on one thing, they grabbed this man. And they tried to punch on one thing, went from another, they grabbed this man. And they tried to punch on dude. You feel me? One thing went from another, they grabbed this man. And they tried to punch on dude. Dude went and rained out like crazy bad. Everybody trying to get back to their cars or get in, you know. I'm paying attention to my kids. But
so he was actually there, right? He was there underneath the tent trying to get dry. He was trying to get dry just like everybody else because it was raining outside again. He was with his kids, but he was in the area of where Karmelo and Metcalf were, or he was under the same tent with Karmelo, so he was there.
But at the same time, they're in the same vicinity, so I'm watching everything going on around it because I'm there for my children. So, dude, what was up? McKellen, bro, he wasn't even under the tent at the time. They came from a whole separate tent and walked over there. They intentionally went over there to this kid, man. Dude was sitting there on his phone just trying to get dry. You feel me? One thing went from another. They grabbed this man and they tried to punch on dude. Dude went
Candle Stadium Wednesday morning. Court documents say Anthony told police with his hands up in the air and said, quote, "I was protecting myself."
He was protecting himself. That is his argument.
Put his hands on me and I told him
that he was protecting himself, right?
not to. Anthony.
So, I just want to know, are so-called black people able to protect themselves? Because even above self-defense, you have self-preservation where, since birth, God has given us the right to live. We have the right to live. You don't get to just kill us. You don't get to just threaten us. You don't get to just end our life. We have the right to live. And if we feel in danger, so-called black people are going to react. We're going to react. I mean, what do you expect?